Hello, my name is Steven Zimmerman. I'm presenting the article Changes in Intellectual Functioning Associated with Normal Aging. The authors of this article were Lori J. Miller, Allison Myers, Lena Prinzi, and Wiley Mittenberg. This is for Gero 530, February 11, 2014. So in order to really understand this article, there's something that some background that I found very helpful. So this article focuses on the Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scales, 4th edition, but it also references the previous three Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scales, which were conducted in 1955, 1981, and 1997. This test, the scales, resemble an IQ test, and they measure different types of intelligence. For example, the intelligent vocabulary, arithmetic, and general problem solving, standardized testing, and also some hands-on material like the block design. So just to really gauge the intelligence of the participants of the test, different types of intelligence. The authors had three hypotheses that were general to this, specific to the article. The first was that the WAIS-4 will illustrate similar patterns to age-related decline as observed in previous findings. The second hypothesis is that the most significant decline is expected in the areas of processing speed and nonverbal intelligence. And the third hypothesis is there will be relative preservation of verbal abilities in older age groups. The study itself had a goal to examine the age-related changes in intelligence from the WAIS-4. Then they'd compare these findings in the form of mean scores and standard deviations to previous findings from the other WAIS results. The study was a cross-sectional study with a population of 2,200 participants aged 16 to 90, and these individuals were selected to represent the demographic characteristics of the U.S. population. This included gender, age, educational levels, geographic region of residence, and ethnicity. People that could not partake in the study were individuals that had neurological or psychiatric disorders, people that were taking medications that might affect test performance, anyone that had a history of unconsciousness longer than 20 minutes, people that had radiation or electroconvulsive therapy, or vision and hearing impairment. The participants were scored on performance on subtests first in vocabulary, information, similarities, digit span, arithmetic, block design, matrix reasoning, visual puzzles, coding, and symbol search. And then these specific subtests were then broken down with their mean into an index of that was correlated into vocabulary comprehension index, perceptual reasoning index, working memory index, and processing speed index, and then full scale IQ. And this really, the researchers did a really great job in showing the different means and also the standard deviations. There's a lot of data in this study. So the results of the study. The results were consistent with the hypothesis and also represented a similarity to the previous three WAIS studies. The subtests that tested nonverbal reasoning, such as coding, block design, symbol search, were most affected by age than the other tests that just measured verbal intelligence. The most dramatic was coding for age-related scores. So individuals that were aged 16 to 25, the mean score was 10, and people that were aged 45 to 64, the score was 9, and people aged 85 to 90, the score was 4. So you could see a drop in level at certain age groups. The data from vocabulary information subtest illustrated improvements in verbal ability through middle age, and there was actually hardly any significant decline from the youngest age group to the oldest age group. Interestingly enough, vocabulary information, especially vocabulary. So the mean started out to the age of 16. The mean score was 9. And then you see a slight improvement from the ages 25 to 29 all the way down to the ages of 30 to 34 of 10. But in middle age, from 35 to 44 and all the way up to 65 to 69, the mean score was actually 11. So there's actually an improvement, which is understandable because people keep acquiring vocabulary. And you didn't really see the decline in scores until age 70 to 74, which was 10. And then at age 85 to 90, the mean score actually was the same, 9, as at age 16 and 17. Information was similar. The mean score at age 16 through 17 all the way up to 30 to 34 was 10. And the mean score for 35, the middle age, 35 to 79 was 11. And then there was a drop off at 80 to 84 to 10. And the last thing that was an interesting data was that when compared to the other 3 studies, you can see that the functioning IQ, the standard deviation has gone up from each consecutive test. So from 1955, the full scale IQ was 80, a standard deviation of 12.5. And then in 1981, the score was 82. 1997, it was 85, and then 2008, it was 86. So they don't quite explain why the IQ went up. Possibly people are getting better at taking IQ tests, or education levels, or possibly the delay. Well, this is actually specific, to the age 70 to 74, and it might be the fact that people are living longer and that their minds are resisting decline because of advances in modern medicine and healthy living alternatives. So the implications of the study itself. So the data from this study was consistent with previous study findings. Evidence further supports a relationship between normal aging and cognition decline in nonverbal intelligence, but shows levels of resilience in verbal intelligence. So why is that? In the discussion section, the authors note that this is consistent with, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Ribot's Law of 1882, which states that cognitive abilities and skills learned early in life and that are used on a regular basis are more resistant to conditions that affect the brain. So things that you learn as a child, language skills, that kind of stuff, you retain, and also those that you practice more often, you hold on to. So kind of atrophy of the mind, and also the oldest memories formed are the ones that are most resilient. So both use it or lose it, and what you learn as a child sticks with you throughout most of your life. So critiques of the study in the article, there's a lot of positive things. There's one really great thing was the data. They just had tons of data that as a reader you can see where they got their findings, and clearly see the difference in cognition, and where actually people or results show where generally some intelligences decline. So you can definitely see where coding breaks down, or where vocabulary just stays resilient, and actually where improvements occur. Now that's obviously if the data is accurate, and I believe it is. The other thing is the data clearly illustrates changes in specific areas, and it shows these specific areas. You can see which would be verbal, nonverbal, and then which also reflect processing speed and working memory. And the last thing was, I think that the study took into account a good population size. I mean, 2,200 people isn't great, but if they took into account all the variations such as gender, ethnicity that were corresponding to the U.S. Census, I think that's a good population to base a study on. The negatives, The authors do not provide much in-depth analysis on why there was a decline. They do state that the decline is similar to, shows there was a similar degenerative process such as Alzheimer's disease or any other dementia or head trauma, but that's about it. And they kind of maybe say it alludes to cell breakdown, but that's about it for the explanation. They also have no really suggestions on ways to prevent the delay of age-related cognitive decline. One would have to infer that that people could practice certain things in their daily life, like problem-solving skills, and maybe they would prevent the decline, but they don't state that anywhere in the article. And then the other critique is that many people have with any IQ test is how accurate is the IQ test engaging intelligence. Some people would say it's not, and some people would argue that there's other intelligence that cannot be gauged by IQ tests, like wisdom or common sense. The other thing is IQ tests, specifically when they're meant to gauge memory, can create a stereotype threat, specifically in older adults who may know that they are being tested on their memory, and that could maybe stress them and affect their results in the end. So I'd like to end on a couple questions, just to kind of get everyone thinking about the topic and the article itself. So the first question is a true or false, and it actually relates to the reading this week in the textbook, and it's true or false, a decline in nonverbal reasoning skills associated with age can be attributed to the fact that we lose millions of neurons every day. This answer is false. In the book they say that this is one of the big myths of aging. Yes, we do lose neurons every day, but there's a lot of neuroplasticity, and it would take hundreds of years for us to lose our mind, actually. Number 2, which of the following sub-tests in the study would be least affected by age? Would it be A, coding, B, vocabulary, C, visual puzzles, or D, symbol search? Remember that nonverbal is most affected, so the answer is B, vocabulary, because that is a verbal skill, and that's something that you learn as a child, and you practice every day, and actually it showed improvement through middle age. So 3, what are some other types of intelligence that the WAIS did not or could not test for? It's more like, to kind of stimulate thought. One of them I suggested could be wisdom. In the book they mention crystallized intelligence versus fluid intelligence. I think that that WAIS really tests fluid intelligence, not necessarily crystallized intelligence. And the last question is true or false. According to the WAIS, functioning IQ for older adults aged 70 to 74 has improved over the last 60 years. And the answer is yes, it has. They don't explain why it has improved. I think it may be a combination of things. People are living longer and healthier lives, so people are delaying or actually pushing back the diseases that cause dementia. And also, since they're living healthier lives, there's more social interaction, and they're using more of their mind as opposed to just staying home and not really interacting and practicing those intelligent verbal skills and social skills. So, you can formulate your own hypothesis on that. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Thanks. Bye.